Welcome to the Salvager, where with imagination and a bold disregard for convention, I'll turn throwaway wood and metal into worthwhile and interesting furniture. I need to find something good for me lamp. I've had an interesting little bit tucked away around the back here for a couple of years, and as I'm building a lamp, I think this is going to be just the job. I've got corners like this tucked all over my yard. I don't often come down here, but I've usually got a good idea of where I've left things. And this is exactly where I thought it'd be. This is an old Salvager's tripod. When I've cleaned this up, this will make a fantastic base to my lamp. Well, this is my lovely old tripod. It's getting on a bit. The legs are well rusted up. They're going to need a bit of treatment with my sandblaster. And I've also got to find a complimentary lampshade. Now, if that needs cleaning, I can do both in one hit. I didn't think I'd have to look far. This is an old 5-gallon paraffin drum, and it's going to be just a job. If I cut the top off, that'd be fantastic for a shade. The bottom half will make a great planter next year. If I get this in the tripod over at the sandblaster, I can start cleaning them up. That's good enough for what I want. Now I can get on with the tripod. Well, that's as much as I wanted to do on there. I only wanted to lose the surface rust because I want to keep the impression of age. When I've waxed that, that'll look really, really nice. The last thing I want to do before I go back in the workshop is cut this off with my angle grinder. I'm a very experienced cutter, but if you're not, go carefully here. Angle grinders can leave nasty holes in fingers if you let them. Well, that's the perfect industrial lampshade. I'll just get this and my tripod back in the workshop and we can start playing around. Well, I'm back inside with my two treasures. I've got a nice industrial looking shade and I've got my fantastic Salvager's tripod. Now the problem I've got is how do I marry that to that? Now some of you may think the easy solution would be to turn this into an uplighter. But then I've got the problem of trying to drill through 5 inches of solid steel for the flex. And to come up with a solution, I've had a good route about in my scrap metal bin. Now every salvage yard has got one and I'm sure they'll let you have a route about if you ask nicely. Now I was lucky enough to come up with a few fittings. Now these are plumbing fittings and conveniently they screw together. So once I've done that, I'll bond that to that and that's the first part of my problem solved. And what do I use to do that? Something that's strong and cheap. Because this is a bit sloppy on here, I need a gap filling adhesive, so I'm using a 2-part epoxy, otherwise known as car body filler. Once the paste has been mixed, you only need a little bit to make the bond strong. As the hardener and the adhesive mix together, it reduces and dries fast, so you have to be ready to use it right away. I'll leave that to set for about 10 minutes and that should be as hard as rock. We've established that these two fittings are fine, which leads me on to my next problem of how I attach the shade to this, because this is still a little bit sloppy. And this is where my third fitting rides to the rescue. It's a bit of brass bush, a little bit of jiggery pokery, a bit more epoxy resin. I can attach that to that and we're ready to start wiring the whole thing up. car filler, some brass plumbing fittings and a rusty old can. Not a natural marriage perhaps, but I think it's going to bring me great results. To make sure that's fully seated in the hole, I'm just going to give it a little whack with my hammer. That bush is well solid in there. You wouldn't get that out if you tried. So I now need to attach this to this. I've wedged this in place and I'm going to pack this void out with filler and that'll hold that nice and solid. I'm not too worried about the surplus on here because there's a moment just before it sets when it turns into almost like cheese and it'll rub off as easy as anything. After 10 minutes I'll use a wire brush, perfect for getting rid of the residue. It's as solid as a rock. Well, that's pressing all the right buttons for me. Now I can start thinking about getting some electrics in. Now it's really easy to find salvage light fittings, but if they're more than a few years old, there's a good chance I won't have an earth connection. So I've been out, I bought a brand new bulb holder and some new flex. That way I can be sure. But if there's any doubt, get it wired up by a qualified electrician. So all I'm going to do on this is thread the flex down through the hole, put a plug on, and we ain't far off done. To hold this bulb holder in place, I'm going to use this. It's heat resistant two-part epoxy putty. It sets like iron. Now that's all bonded in place, I'm just going to pop that little carton over the bulb holder and give the whole thing a spray of aluminium paint. That'll neaten the whole thing up and give it a much better reflective surface. Just to finish this off, I'm giving it a good coat of furniture wax. Makes the metal look lovely. Brings the wood up a treat. It weren't designed to be a lamp, and some of that's coming across in its instability, but I think I'm winning. It's like wrestling a squid. Well, that, to all intents and purposes, is done. With the bulbs in, my plugs on, let's light this baby up. Conventional it's not, pleasing to me it is. I can't think of a better use for some old stuff I had knocking around and a little bit of filler. And what did I spend? Just a few quid. You can't say fairer than that. The mood of a house can be totally transformed by the good or bad lighting found within. With careful placement, a house becomes warmer, friendlier, more inviting, a place to truly relax in. Here, a few junk finds have been transformed into a poseable and intriguing lamp that could do its bit in the right setting. So if you want to see more, join me next time on The Salvager.